Transmoodiness, a podcast where we proudly say the quiet part out loud and wear our hearts on our sleeve. Sipping a tea while listening to this podcast is encouraged. Hi! Oh my gosh, maybe I should just try to not sing this one. Hello. My name's Elisa. If you've never met me, my name is Elisa. This is Sunday Morning Juice. This is the Transmoodiness podcast if you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple. But if you're on Substack and you're meeting me for the first time on Sunday Morning Juice, hello. You guys, I have been having a little bit of a time these past maybe like 2 weeks, I would say. My life is really starting to look different a lot in the best way. And that is what prompts me to just jump right in today. I will not shut up about it, but I'm doing the Brooklyn and Tribeca film festivals. I'm doing press. So I've been watching a lot of movies. I have been writing. I'm trying to keep up with writing the personal essays and the podcast and the YouTube. And so far it's been working, but the actual festivities just started 2 days ago. So we're going to see what the next 2 weeks looks like, but I am that girl and I'm extraordinary, so it's going to look pretty similar for you, and I already am knowing it. And that leads me into what we're talking about. This is what really happens when your prayers are answered. I've had a pretty extraordinary couple of weeks, and it's not like it came out of the blue. These are definitely things I've been taking actionable steps towards. These are definitely things I've been seeing in my mind when I close my eyes. Like, this is definitely a curation of how I've been moving through my day to day, and it is showing up, and it's a little bit jarring in the best way. And I feel like I need to talk about this. Nobody kind of prepares you. And I feel like, there's so much more that's going to happen. I already know. I already feel it in my soul. But as I'm starting to see things progress in a way that I have not seen before, I want to document this moment with a cute little podcast and talk about it with you. So first, I want to talk about my relationship to manifestation. And to do that, I guess I could probably get into meditation first, because that's kind of how it came to me. I started meditating. I started doing sleep meditations when I was in college, my sophomore year. I didn't quite know what I was doing, but I knew that I was a little bit too anxious. I was definitely the type of person who couldn't sit down. I was in college. I was in a program that was fine. To be honest, college is such a weird thing for me, because you just wake up, go to school, work out, eat, go to parties with your friends. That's literally all I did. And while I wasn't really thinking long term, I think me starting those meditations kind of started to put into perspective for me that life was more than just that, because I would graduate and I would go to work and I would work out and I would eat and probably go out to the bar with my friends, what everyone literally does. But in those moments, in my little 19, 20-year-old brain, before I even knew it, I was making plans for myself to be better for myself. And maybe like 4 years ago, I got very serious about manifestation. And I was still a pretty anxious person back then. I still was on a path doing things like going to my tech job from home, so going to work from my couch and working out and eating and going on runs and going out with my friends and drinking and smoking weed. But that's what everybody does. Thank God we're starting to see people start to veer off of that track. But for the most part, that's all people do. Maybe they have a little side project that they're hitting up one time a week. But for the most part, that's like the average Joe thing to do. And people feel like that's enough because, you have a little 9 to 5, not little, my bad. Anyway, after I started noticing that and I started to manifest better, I would say it was about a year, probably less because we're manifesting always, but it was about a year of conscious efforts that I started to see small things roll in. I was getting small opportunities. I was making $50 here. I was making $100 there. That was when I started to see the small things, and that was when I really started to see those many synchronicities. And I'm not just talking angel numbers, I'm just talking being on the road driving and every single light I hit is green. Small things that just make your day a little bit better. You notice those things and you're grateful for those things, but nothing prepares you for the bigger things, the inexplicable things. And I am not going to get into specifics about it. I just don't want to say these things and have people start comparing themselves, because that's another thing that I want to get into a little bit later. But there comes a point where you see these small things, you get so settled, you get so grateful, and that's when God, the universe, however you want to describe it, is like, okay, they are ready for more. They are being a great little being in this life. They should be granted more. That's when things start falling into place that don't quite make sense. I'm starting to get to the point where I'm seeing those bigger things manifest into my real life. And I caught myself because I literally was like, is this a mistake? And the whole day, I kept having to remind myself, no, this is not a mistake. This is for you. And it took about 3 days before I just settled and dug my feet in the sand and was like, no, this is mine. I claim it, because the same way I brought this thing in, I can let this thing out, and I'm not going to allow that. And I think that's kind of where people start to get stuck. Once they see those little synchronicities and then they've graduated to getting the bigger things, that's where the real imposter syndrome sets in. And I just talked about this a week or two ago in a piece. This is that part of the journey that people get really confused by, because when you decide to set your sights on something, in the beginning, there's a lot of motivation. There's a lot of untapped territory. In that untapped territory is a lot of bland, rural area that is going to make you forget why you were in it for the first place. When you're in that middle where you can't see the beginning anymore and you can't see the end anymore, that's where a lot of people give up. But once you get just past that, just when you almost kind of don't care anymore about that long-term goal. And it's not that you don't care, it's just that you genuinely don't see it anymore. You've gotten into the mechanics, you're taking those actionable steps to get to that place that you want to, and then you're granted with a wish, like a genie. That's when you almost forget all of that work and all of those hours that you'd put in for weeks and weeks and months. When you're finally given that thing, you almost, okay, I actually have never had a baby before, but I've asked my mom this a couple of times. And she has said to me, like, you have a baby and then you kind of forget about the pain. She actually doesn't say that specifically about my birth. I feel like she remembers that labor. But either way, other women say that. You have a baby and then you just forget about the pain. And that's the reason you're able to have another baby. Unless it's just extremely traumatic. That's what happens when those things start rolling in after you've been in the thick, in the grind. You kind of forget about those tears from seeing nothing come to pass. But you're like, I'm tired of this, grandpa. And then, but also you're like, that's too damn bad. And you just keep digging anyway. There comes a point where you get to the gold at the bottom of that hole that you dug. And it is shocking. It's shocking and it's beautiful, but it's yours. And you've earned it and you deserve it. Okay? So immediately, when those things come in, know that you deserve it and you take hold of it. And maybe you have little moments of doubt and little moments of imposter syndrome. You talk yourself through it. You remind yourself who you are. Because as said, the same way you brought it in, you manifested it in, it will go away. Don't let it. Do not let it. Because you deserve it and you worked hard to get here. When that happens, you're going to have a new aura. You're going to have a new energy. You're going to have a new mindset. You're going to have a new perspective on life. And this is where you may start to see changes in a different way, specifically in your relationships, okay? I have noticed, you know how they say not everyone is going to be able to come with you? The closer you get, the louder that plays in your head like a microphone. You're kind of seeing things a little differently. You have a new perspective on life. You have almost a sensitivity to to you, a different level of sensitivity. I've always been pretty sensitive, but the things people say, because the things that you say on this journey matter so much, and you're gonna be alone during this journey so much, you're gonna be hypersensitive to these things. And you're gonna start to notice people being super self-deprecating. You're gonna start to notice people being super negative. That shit is going to harp on you. It is going to feel heavy. It is going to be intolerable. But there's another archetype that I want you to pay attention to, because this one is subtle and this one is detrimental. And this is the people who compare themselves to you. Here's an example. You could say something along the lines of, I don't really go out anymore. I just have a different set of priorities. And you could be having a conversation about this, and someone could be like, well, I still go out and I still have goals and I'm still making it work. Good for you. No one's talking about you at all. It's those little things where people kind of compare themselves to your journey. And it's weird because from the outside, it's just them looking at you as a mirror, and it could be taken as inspiration or it can be taken as them wanting to compare themselves to you. If they don't get right, like, you got to leave them behind. They have to get left, because there's no way you're gonna have the energy to be constantly battling someone who's constantly comparing themselves to you. In weird ways, they kind of talk you down from things too. It's subtle and it doesn't feel good. You may even have a voice in your head that's telling you that you're being sensitive. And when you get to this level, most people kind of are not there. Like, when someone is building something for themselves and they're really, really, really passionate about it, that's kind of the people that you have to keep in your inner circle. So just be very conscious of that. The more you raise that aura, the more you raise that energy, the more there's that juice about you. People see that as a magnet. People try to get into the orbit of that a lot. People will drain you. You cannot allow that. So just be very aware and be very discerning. And maybe you don't have to cut the people off, but you do need to take a step back. So just know that. Do you need to have a conversation about it? I'm going to leave that up to you, because as much as I love to have an open conversation, I'm starting to see that not everyone can really handle that anyway. So just, again, that's something you want to have discernment with. When it rains, it pours. Have you guys ever heard of the compound effect? It's like you're doing all of these steps, and you don't see the outcome that you want until you do. And it's everywhere. It's unstoppable. It's flowing like a fucking river. And even before this, those things were never in the distant future. Those things are actually right here, right now. This is something that my dad and I talk about. We've talked about it a couple of times, and this is not a theory that we've created. But my dad is an artist, and I am an artist also. And we always talk about how we have these ideas, and before we know it, maybe it's 3 months or 6 months or 8 months down the road, someone who's very successful in their field has taken this idea and used it, and it's shown to be a very successful idea. Now, we're not saying that they stole our ideas. They literally don't know us. We're saying that our ideas were with us because we attracted them. We're deserving of them, but we didn't act upon them, so they bounced away to someone else. I mean, this is just the easiest example. Someone wants to be in a relationship with you, and maybe at first you're not really that interested in them because they want you so bad. They are persistent, and there comes a point where you're like, you know what? I actually kind of like you too. And then you get there and you realize they're not even putting in the work to keep you. They just wanted to have you around. And then once they got you around, they thought you were locked in, but you're like, no, I'm gonna go. That's the exact thing that happens with these ideas. If you do not act on them, they are going to go. So the same way you call it in, you manifest it in, you gotta take some steps or you are gonna let it out, okay? Because that really shows a lack of confidence in you, a lack of trust, and low self-esteem. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You're better than that. And I would like to add, say you don't act on an idea that was really successful. Everything is cyclical. These ideas are literally floating around in the orbit just as much as O2. Is that oxygen? If it is, just as much as O2. You take that lesson if that's what you need to do, but you keep the doors open, you allow opportunities to come in, you keep that foot on the gas, you keep doing what you know you need to do, you keep taking those actionable steps, you have discipline because you're not always gonna have motivation, but if you always have discipline, you're building trust within yourself, you are becoming confident. That imposter syndrome is gonna be something that is not as prevalent. Does it go away forever? I don't know. I get it sometimes, and I hope it stops, but to be honest, we're human. It may not ever. But either way it goes, you must believe in yourself and you must stay ready so you don't have to get ready, because those opportunities will come knocking on that door if that is meant for you. Everything you prayed for is happening, whether it's a good prayer or whether it's a bad prayer, whether you're praying in fear. That's another thing. There are a lot of people, even family, and I really do not believe that they do this in a bad way, but they may send you prayers or they may pray for you on their knees at night, but they're praying in fear. You may have an opportunity on the horizon and they want you to have it so bad, but them themselves live in fear. Them themselves are really anxious and have a lot of negative energy around these. This is why you got to keep certain things to yourself, because accidentally these people are going to hold you back. Here's an example. Someone praying for their child. I really, really pray them out of this dark spot because I know that if they don't get out, it could be really bad for them. It could be really detrimental for them. Why are you talking about if I don't get out? You are already putting it into the universe that I don't have the strength to make it out. You can't control other people. You cannot. But you need to pay attention to who you can and who you cannot share things with. And they mean well. But meaning well and being well are not the same thing. Oof, that's what I'm going to leave you with. Everything that you prayed for is happening. It's happening now. It's happening fast. You deserve it, and I hope this helps. And when you stop attaching yourself to that outcome, that's really when that outcome wants to be with you. Happy day. This is coming out on a Tuesday on Substack, Sunday on YouTube. So whatever day you're listening to this, it doesn't even matter. Time is not real and everything is happening all at once. I love having you guys around. I'm aligning myself with everyone who needs this message. Okay? Stop praying in fear. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Sunday Morning Juice Transmoodiness podcast. I want to hear your experiences and I want to hear what you have to say. So make sure to subscribe on Substack and wherever you get your podcasts. Join the community, join the chat room, and leave your comments. There is so much to unpack in this life. See you next Tuesday.